When Goku arrived on Namek, the first guy to really provide a physical and mental challenge for him was Captain Ginyu. Goku pretty much made a joke, a mockery out of the Ginyu Force, but Captain Ginyu was a bit stronger than them. However, as the fight went on, Captain Ginyu knew that he was toast because Goku wasn't even getting close to using his max power, and Captain Ginyu had never expected him to be so strong. So when Captain Ginyu realized that he could not defeat Goku in battle, he used his coup de grace, his secret technique, and that is the body change. And on this edition of the technique guide, we're going to go into Captain Ginyu's body change and discuss everything we know about this move and all that good stuff. Let's do it. So I pretty much went over the scenario in the intro to the video, but if you want to go back and actually see it for yourself, just a quick reminder, it's Dragon Ball Chapter 286, which is from August 7th, 1990, and that correlates to Dragon Ball Z Episode 71, or if you're watching the Kai version, it would be Kai Episode 33. And speaking of books, let's go ahead and dive into what the Daizenshus, the guidebooks, say about this technique. And if you have them, that would be Daizenshu 2, page 212, or Daizenshu 4, page 58. Thank yous to Herms for these translations and these references. So in the guidebooks about the body change, it says, crying change, and of course in the English dub it was change now, but he just says change in the Japanese version. He fires a dazzling light at his opponent from out of his entire body. After being covered with this light, his opponent is drawn into his body through the mouth and they exchange bodies. So before I keep reading, I want you to notice that this technique actually has two parts to it. You know, Ginyu uses the first phase of the move to kind of freeze you in place. You know, and that's one thing that isn't really talked about too much, is that Captain Ginyu sort of freezes you in place with the first part of the move. And it's hard to really deduct how he's able to do this. It could just be sort of key manipulation, or it could actually be a situation where the Dragon Ball manga and anime are actually slowing down time for us to process what's happening. You know what I mean? Like the 5 minutes with Frieza and things of that nature that Dragon Ball tends to do. So moving on, it says that in order to exchange consciousness with his opponent, the user of this technique has a ball of his consciousness invade his opponent's through the mouth. So it spits out from Captain Ginyu and goes into whoever he's changing bodies with, their mouth, and he obtains their body. And then it says here it takes some time for both people to get used to their switch bodies, and during that time they are unable to freely control their power, which is of course what actually happens to Captain Ginyu. He takes over Goku's body, seeing how much power he's able to tap into, like with the Kaioken and whatnot. But Captain Ginyu not only is having trouble controlling Goku in the Kaioken because he has no knowledge of the move, but he's also having trouble controlling Goku when it comes to just his base form. Like, he doesn't know how to use Goku's body. Goku, of course, being at this point extremely experienced, showing mastery of the martial arts, has been through so many battles that he has extreme control of his body. So many battles, so many trainers, and Captain Ginyu, who's also pretty impressive, who's also very strong and very equipped at fighting, he just doesn't have the same experience that Goku has, and he doesn't understand his body the way that Goku does. And it does take some adjustment time, which is why in the manga and in the anime and in the series, you see Gohan and Krillin performing so well against Goku. And even Vegeta beats him up, you know, because it's not really Goku, it's just Goku's body, and Ginyu has no idea what to do with it. You know, I've talked in the past about like being able to control your ki and being able to, you know, be able to understand yourself and have more discipline and have more body control the more you train in the martial arts. That's kind of what this is, kind of like hitting the reset button and getting a new body. In the guidebook, it actually talks about the anime extra, which is Captain Ginyu when he was a frog using an animal translator to cry change and switching bodies with Bulma. But that was only, you know, in the anime, and it says in the guidebook that he cannot use the technique by shouting change in the frog language. So he has to shout change, even though what's funny about this, and I think it's comical, is that he's not saying the word change in Japanese. He's actually saying the English word change. Like if you watch it, he goes, change. So it's an English word in the Japanese dub. And of course, the English dub says change now. But I find it funny how, for some reason, it has to be the word change. It can't be another word, even in the frog language. So that's kind of the core of this technique. Changing bodies with your opponent because you feel like you cannot defeat them in battle. So if you can't beat them, join them, literally. And the one thing that's always been a big mystery is if Captain Ginyu, who as far as we know is the only person to develop this technique, he may have been the one to come up with it, or maybe he learned it from some weird alien race, who knows. If he knows this technique and has mastery of it, is this his original body? And that was actually answered a long time ago, about a year and a half or so ago. I made a video on November 23rd, 2018 called Captain Ginyu's Original Body, where I discuss not only Toyotaro's drawing, but actually something that was revealed in the pages of Jump magazine back in 1991. In fact, I will actually show you a clip from that video right here, a brief clip, in case you didn't see that video or maybe you forgot about it. So here's the clip.
So in this article, it talks about how Sauza was at one time in competition with Captain Ginyu to be in the armored squad leader. So Captain Ginyu at one time didn't even want to work for Frieza. He wanted to work for Cooler, according to this story, and he is one of the few people who knows Captain Ginyu's true form.
Now, before somebody says, oh, well, that's from a movie, it's not part of the manga continuity or the anime continuity, I understand that, but I have to give you all the information in these guides so that you have it, because if I don't put it in, someone will be asking, why didn't I put it in? You know what I mean? So Captain Ginyu's body change is really a very spiritual technique because he manages to somehow use his ki and put his soul, because that's what really happens. His consciousness, his soul goes into a ball of energy, and trades places with his opponent. Now, this is a pretty big deal. Think about it. How many techniques in Dragon Ball actually manipulate your soul? There's not a very big number of them. How many of them actually can mess around with something involving your spirit, your consciousness? We have the Devil Might Beam. We have the Gogeta's Soul Punisher or Stardust Breaker. There's only a handful of them that do that. And Ginyu is able to do this, and not only that, but it seems to be a move that isn't really blockable unless another living being gets in the way of the beam, which is what happens to the frog in Dragon Ball Z. So that makes it a really underrated and powerful technique when you really break it down like that. And Dragon Ball Z would not be the last time that we saw it, because Dragon Ball Super reintroduced the technique in the Resurrection F TV arc. This is not the Resurrection F movie, it's the Dragon Ball Super TV arc, which was not written by Toriyama. This was taking the Resurrection F story and adding things by Toei Animation. And this scene right here with Captain Ginyu changing bodies again with Tagoma, this was not written by Toriyama whatsoever. This is all the Toei team coming up with it, and they sort of created a little bit of a retcon here in a sense of originally only Captain Ginyu could say the word change when he wants to change bodies. That's the way the rules have always been, that Ginyu must be the one to say change. But in Dragon Ball Super, in this version of the story, or in this version of the move, he, as a frog who somehow survived all these years, we know he survived Namek, but was able to have Tagoma by writing the word change into the ground, and Tagoma saying the word change, it triggered the body change, and somehow Captain Ginyu was able to take over Tagoma's body. That never made sense to me. It was really dumb, and honestly, what made it even more dumb is the fact that Captain Ginyu learned how to use Tagoma's body within seconds, whereas it was already established that he had problems learning Goku's body, but somehow was able to learn Tagoma's, even though at that point, Tagoma was so much more powerful than Namek-era Goku. Like, it's ridiculous. And this is one of the stupidest things that I think Toei Animation added, just to kind of say that Vegeta was able to kill Ginyu in Tagoma's body and have Vegeta be the guy to kill the entire Ginyu force, That's why they did it. I'm guessing just to add some more padding to the series and some more fun stuff. But to me, it just wasn't that fun, and it was kind of dumb, and it really took away from the original established Toriyama lore. So I find it funny that there's people out there who think that the Dragon Ball Super version of Battle of Gods and Resurrection F is, quote, canon, and it became the canon after the movies, even though Toriyama helped write Battle of Gods, the movie, and literally wrote the script for Resurrection F himself. So to me, come on, but that's a different video for another day. But one thing Dragon Ball Super also did was show the other version of the body change, and that is Zamasu. And this is totally different because He used the Super Dragon Balls to do it, and it was not a technique. And because of that, it's not really worth discussing on this video because that was not a technique, and this is the technique guide. But if I didn't mention it, I'm sure somebody would have left a comment asking why I didn't mention it. That's why. It was just a wish. Oh, and before I close out, I almost forgot to mention that in the dub, Captain Ginyu, in the original Funimation dub, Captain Ginyu screams out, "You're mine," instead of change. So, again, one of those classic unnecessary dub changes that they were doing in 1999 because they had no idea what they were doing, not realizing that he has to say change or change now for the move to work. One last question that always comes up when it comes to the body change, this is the last point, is what would happen if Captain Ginyu did the body change on a fused character, whether it be a Potara fusion like Vegito or somebody like Gogeta and Gotenks, and then the 30-minute timer ran out and they defused? There is no answer to this question. Anybody who tries to give you an answer is not being honest with you. It's just theorizing. Toriyama has never given a direct answer. There's never been an explanation in any of the guidebooks or any of the magazine releases about what would happen. Presumably, one of two things could happen. Number one, the body change is countered and Ginyu gets his body back. Or number two, his consciousness is somehow split into the individual characters post-defusion. So Ginyu would control Goku and Vegeta, or Goten and Trunks, whoever he's, changing bodies with. Sort of like how there were multiple Majin Boos with different consciousnesses, or Cell Juniors that kind of all thought alike but all had their own brain. One of those kind of things could happen. But again, there is no definitive answer to this question. It's one of the most frequently asked questions in the history of this franchise, and there's no answer. Nobody gave you a straight answer because Toriyama himself has never gone on record, and maybe someday he will, and if he does, I'll make a video about it. I'll promise you that, because it's very frequently asked. Anyways, that does it for this technique guide. I hope you have a lovely day, and if you enjoyed this video, check out more technique guides and other videos right now.